Good morning, everyone. Day 3 of Odoo Connect. My name is Michael, and I'm a business advisor with Odoo, obviously. Before we jump in, I do want to introduce myself. I've been with the company for 5 years now, starting December, and since then, I brought on board about 150 companies in production using our system. So as you can see in the slide, today we'll be going over how Odoo's version 13 sales forecasting works and how you can be able to make effective decisions based on your own information that exists in Odoo. So let's go through the agenda. Okay. All right, so I'll go over why sales forecasting is important, how sales forecasting works in Odoo, and then of course I'll actually show you a product demonstration, and then after that we'll go over or I'll open up the floor for questions. Okay, so that being said, why is sales forecasting important in Odoo? Well, for a variety of reasons, right? If you're a salesperson, obviously you have targets to meet, you have commissions you want to make. 2, if you are a sales manager and you have to present this to shareholders. And 3, depending on your industry. So perhaps you guys manufacture and you base your manufacturing around sales forecasting. So the only problem with that is, or at least the way things work now, you can set up a few rules in Odoo. You can apply a percentage on a particular stage, but it's not necessarily dynamic. So that can present a problem when it comes to something like accuracy. All right. So how does sales forecasting work in Odoo? So we built machine learning in the system that data mines your previous close and win-loss rates, and under the guise of a number of parameters, such as where your customers are coming from. And like I said, it's dynamic, so you don't have to, let's say if you are a sales manager, reconfigure the percentage of, let's say, a particular lead closing based on the stage. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at how it currently works in version 12. So let's navigate over to CRM. And here we have various stages of our sales cycle from new all the way down to 1. And like I said, the way it used to work was I'll go ahead and apply a probability score for a particular stage. So if I click on this little gear icon, click on edit stage, I can go ahead and apply a probability rate of 10%. Now, again, that's a problem, right? Because it's an yes, you can possibly create a report in Odoo, take a look at your previous sales history, right? You can quickly run a report and then adjust the probability. But the problem is, what happens if the market changes? Perhaps a certain location of your customers are no longer generating that kind of revenue. So with version 13, let's go ahead and jump over, you can go ahead and allow Odoo to basically take the wheel so you can focus on the deals that matter. So for example, let's go ahead and take a look at this generated lead. Okay, we have a 0.56% rate of closure, and that's a problem, right? We don't want to focus on that. Perhaps we can touch that later. And if you're someone like myself who's an inbound, in the inbound direct sales, we get about, I don't know, about 3 leads a day or 6 leads a day. And I want to focus on the companies that I know will give me some sort of revenues. So how this works is Odoo allows you to configure predefined parameters that will apply a score based on your win-loss ratio, as well as the following parameters here: state, country, phone quality, email quality, source, as well as language. So the more you use the system, the more Odoo understands, okay, let's say a company from New York City. It seems like we are earning a lot of business there. And because of that, because it's mining your own information, it will change that probability. So let's go ahead and take a look. So first, let's generate a lead, and let's put it to 1. So let's create. And of course, you can have Odoo generate leads automatically if you're using something like our website form, link tracking, and so on. But what we'll do is we'll create one from scratch. So let's say I have Nick Kozinski. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and edit. Okay, and once I save, I have no, of course, probability score here. But once I start adding data, okay, let's say Nick works for Odoo. All right. And let's go ahead and save. Okay, still at 0. Now, once we start entering information into the system, okay, so let's say Odoo is within the state of California. Okay, let's go ahead and save. Okay. And let's put it to 1. So now Odoo will recognize, okay, the next time we get a lead from California, it will update that probability. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's create a new lead. Okay, and let's say this lead was within Odoo Connect. All right, and let's go ahead and create another customer. M Noodle House, by the way, it's a great shop in Brooklyn if you're ever in town. Highly suggest you guys go. And let's go ahead and change the state here. Okay. Oh, San Francisco or California. Let's go ahead and save. And as you can see, right there, right above, right next to this little green widget right here, it's telling me you have, as estimated by Odoo, the probability rate of this lead closing would be at 61.24%. And now once you start defining additional information, such as, let's say, an email, that will automatically calculate the score, and the percentage will go down. In this case, because I believe the lead we just put to 1 didn't have that email address. But again, it's dynamic, and it's automatically taking into account all the records you have in the system. So let's go ahead and put more information. And let's go ahead and save. And now, as a salesperson, I can go ahead and when I wake up, when I get this inbound lead, I can take a look at, let's say, those leads that came in, and we can slice and dice our pipeline using the filtering system. So in this case, or let's say you're a manager, you know what? Let's go ahead and take a look at the expected closing dates for the next month. Okay, and let's go ahead and digest that information in the list view. So now, as a manager, if I click on November 2019, I can have a view of all the probability rates on the right-hand side. I can focus on perhaps this company here, Global Solutions, and from there I can go ahead and make better use of my time by focusing on the higher scoring leads. Now, let's say you built that report, and you, as an individual salesperson, you want to share this with your manager. Not a problem. Let's go ahead and click favorites, and we'll go ahead and share this with all the users. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and put close rate November. Okay, and once I click save, now anyone in the company has access to that report, and of course it's dynamic, so as soon as I keep getting leads into the system, again, Odoo will continuously data mine that's my current database and apply the score accordingly. All right, now additionally, we also have strong reporting tools, as you already know. You can go ahead and jump over to reporting, and let's say, in this case, let's go over to sales, okay, and we'll go ahead and generate reports. So like I said in V12, if you are looking for dynamic probability changes, you'll have to navigate to reporting, and you'll have to go ahead and change each of the stage, let's say every single quarter, whereas Odoo will take control of the wheel and change that probability for you. All right, it's pretty straightforward. I'd like to open up the floor if you guys have any questions. Yes? No, it won't. You still have to move that lead into the next stage. And then when you move a lead to the next stage, of course. So it won't move the lead to the next stage automatically, but it will update the probability rate once you move it to the next stage, right? Because you're moving it towards the close, or at least the 1 column. Yes?
So if you were doing a new implementation, you were to import some historical data into there, would it pull some from that historical data to adjust your scoring?
Absolutely. So once you migrate your legacy data over into Odoo, there's a button here within the configuration, let's jump over to CRM, that allows you to define, consider leads created in 2019. Okay? So what you'll do is you'll import them, they'll well, at least if you've closed those deals before, it'll be in the one column, and Odoo will start mining your information. Okay. Other questions?
What else can you manually do to help with the?
Okay, so there's still, at the end of the day, this is automated, and it's still missing that human factor, right? So let's say you go to lunch with a customer. Odoo won't be able to, of course, measure that. So you can still go ahead and manually adjust the probability rates of a particular lead. So if I go ahead and navigate here, this is just a suggestion, as Odoo tells me. Actually, if I change this, let's say at 90%, Odoo is telling me, based on your record, you have 0.32% to close this lead, whereas I know I went to lunch with this guy. He told me that, okay, we're moving forward. I've met the CEO, I've met the executives that matter, and I'll go ahead and manually override the probability rate as calculated by Odoo. Okay. Does I have any other questions? Yes.
Let's say that that lead doesn't have a phone number yet, and you overridden the percentage. Then when you put the telephone number, I mean the phone number, will the probability change automatically, or it will keep the 90% that you put?
No, so as soon as you start typing information into any of these fields, as you can see, Odoo's changing the probability automatically. So it's all dynamic.
Thank you.
Yep.
What about the salesperson? If the salesperson has a better closing rate, does it take that into account?
Yes, absolutely. It takes all your information in Odoo, all your legacy information, every single win-loss rates, and of course the parameters such as email, phone numbers, and so on. And how it works, just to add to that topic, for something like email and phone number, Odoo taps into a library or repository that checks against, okay, all of the Yahoo leads or let's say Gmail leads, it will place at the bottom, giving it a lower probability score versus, let's say, a company email address. Or Odoo's, let's say you are using our website app, for example, right? And someone places, Mike Solero at abc123.com. Odoo intelligently recognizes that and applies a negative probability score. Does that answer your question?
Let me rephrase it. So
Okay.
If this salesperson, Michael Solero, has a better success rate at closing the deal, whenever you create a new lead with this salesperson, is the probability rate going to be higher or no?
No, it doesn't take into account to the salesperson because at the end of the day, this is information that's shared across the company. I mean, you can arbitrarily change that if you like. If you know, hey, I'm going to assign this to Michael Solero, the probability is 49%, but I know he's a high performer. Let's go ahead and apply a additional 20%. So that'll be 69.63.
Okay, that answers the question. Thank you.
So if our sales team doesn't close, we lose the job because we bid too high on it, and you put that in there, can you track that historically so we can see we have customer X and 10 out of 15 jobs we bid too high, so we didn't get the customer. Will this allow for us to see our reasons,
Yes.
why we didn't get to close the job?
Absolutely. So this is pretty standard as of, I believe, version 11. But once you mark a lead lost, you'll have this pop-up widget that'll ask you the loss reason. And you can define the loss reason. So right now I only have 3, too expensive. We don't have people, skills are not in stock, but you can create your own loss reason. And let's go ahead and do so right now. Let's submit, place it to lost. And using the filtering system, let's go ahead and let's say I'd like to group it by loss reasons. All right, so it looks like, because I didn't define it clearly, but in this case, okay, it looks like it was too expensive. Maybe we may want to pivot our strategy, lower our pricing, apply some sort of discounts or incentives to get customers on board. Does that answer your question?
Will that coordinate back to the quote as well? So we can go from the lead part back to the quote. So if we want to look, okay, our reason is that we
Okay.
And then we can go, like, click the button and will it take me back to the quote?
Yeah. So the way data works in Odoo is you have a pool of information, and it's not siloed to an app. So if I have created or I previously created a quote for a customer, I can easily review that here in this widget. I have access to that quotation. Okay. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay.
Can you create custom fields that will then get tracked into the probability score?
No, I mean, you can create custom fields using Odoo Studio, and you can have it calculate other, let's say a custom probability. But the way it works right now, it's predefined by the following parameters, which is state, country, zip code, phone quality, email, source, and language.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. So since I still have a couple more minutes, yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, can we add more fields to that? Or what other more fields can we
You can. That's similar to his questions. You can. But the way it works is you don't, from my understanding, you don't want to have too much information because at the same time, it just becomes a little bit messy because it's starting to calculate all these things and it's not really all that accurate. So by having a predefined, at least starting with, let's say 3 or 4, you can hone in on specific, let's say industry or targets or locations. Okay. So since we still have time and I don't see any hands raised, I'd like to show you how I work, at least, when it comes to our CRM. So thanks to version 13, like I said, I can now go ahead and easily filter out all of the low-scoring probability leads. So what you can do is you can use that filtering system. Let's say probability equates to, equates to a score that's greater than 50%. So once I go ahead and apply that filter, Odoo will slice and dice my pipeline and allow me to focus on those leads that equal or greater than 50%. And like I said, being a salesperson in the inbound department, I receive a lot of leads, and this will allow me to focus again on leads that matter. Okay. All right. So no one else has any questions, right? Okay, cool. So I guess I'll go ahead and conclude this meeting. Thank you guys for coming. We still have a few more talks, and hope I see you guys next year as well. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to this talk. My name is Juan Pablo Mora. I'm part of the support team at Odoo, and I'm going to be presenting how to accept chipped and contactless payments in the new Odoo point of sale. So, using a payment terminal like this one allows you to offer a fluid payment flow to your customers and ease the work of your cashiers. In support, we started to get a lot of feedback from you guys about having a better payment experience in point of sale. Because before, if you had a terminal like this one, you had to do the order within Odoo, manually type the amount, and then accept the card, and then go back into Odoo to validate the order. Now we are happy to announce our new integrations with 4 major payment providers, which are the following. Now we have direct integration with Adyen without the need of an IoT box, and then for Ingenico, Bantiv, and Six, which are major providers too, you do need an IoT box connected to your database. And this is all documented in our docs for point of sale and how to connect them. Today, we're going to focus on Adyen, on how to configure it, but they're all pretty similar configurations. Adyen has a lot of types of terminals, so you can have like this mobile one or the big multimedia ones, and they all work out of the box with Odoo 13. So let's continue. Let's start with the configuration. So first, you're going to want to go to your point of sale application and go to the settings of it. So here in the settings, you will see that now we have this payment terminal section where you will see a checkbox to activate the integration. Once you activate this integration and save the settings, you will install the module that works to connect with Adyen servers so that you can accept payments. The technical name of this module is POS_Adyen, and is in the community version as well. So after that, once the module is installed, you gotta go to your payment methods within the point of sale app, and we're gonna create a new method. That's gonna be a cart, for example, and here you're able to select the payment terminals you have installed. So if you have multiple payment terminals, you'll see the options to select them here. And specifically for Adyen, we need 3 different things to set up. First is the API key from Adyen and the terminal identifier. And also keep in mind that you should enable test mode when appropriate. So now let's jump in to what you need to do on Adyen side and where do you get this information from. So in Adyen, for the first the terminal identifier is going to be the serial number of your terminal. So if you have multiple terminals, you can all hook them up to the same store or multiple stores. You can get this under point of sale, terminals, and then click copy on the serial number. Make sure you click copy instead of just manually typing, because it has like a specific format on it. And now, to get the API key to connect to Adyen servers, you can go to Account Users Authentication. And one thing to keep in mind for the API key is that as soon as you click to get the key, it regenerates a new one. So make sure you save that somewhere safe and do not regenerate while your existing configurations are up and running, because you will break them. And the last thing to do is within Adyen's portal, you need to add the database URL so that they can communicate with your Odoo database. And the URL you need to use is your company domain, and then /module name, which is POS_Adyen, /notification. Because for this integration, we use the Adyen's notification API. So, and that's all you need to do in terms of configuration within your Adyen portal. So now we can go to our settings of the shop. And within the settings, you're going to have your payment methods section, which you just need to make the payment method we created earlier available. Here you have also a specific configuration for Adyen, which is to ask customers for tip. So if you enable this, when the payment receives the order, it will immediately prompt the customer to add a tip. Okay, now, once that configuration is saved, you can open your point of sale and select some items, go to the payment section, and you'll see our card payment method here. So once you select the card, you will see this new section, which is to accept payments, to send the actual order to the terminal. So you click send, you will see the message that it's waiting on the terminal. The terminal will immediately prompt for tip. The customer adds a tip, and then they can insert the card, slide the card, or use Apple Pay if the terminal supports it. Once the payment is successful, you will see a confirmation message within Odoo immediately, and you validate the order. You can even select the customer, email them immediately. And let's do a quick demo now. Okay, one sec. So let's jump into the database, and we're going to review quickly the configurations. So first, let's make sure that we have the integration enabled. And we can see that right here. So now let's review our payment method. You can see here I have created it before, and it's using Adyen as a terminal. In there, it's my API key and my serial number for this terminal. And now, finally, we go to the shop configuration. We select it. Sorry, I cannot see. Make sure that this payment method is available right here. Let's open up our session to start selling some items. Okay, let's add some products and go to our payment, select the method, and send it to our terminal. So immediately, you can see that the terminal has a tip. So let's add some tip. We say continue. Let's actually present a contactless payment. Oh, there was an error. Let's do it again. Let's send it. Add some tip. Continue. And present the card. Authorizing. It's asking us to print the receipt. So we say print later for now. Approved. And immediately you can see the confirmation in Odoo. And of course, if the customer adds some tip, the actual payment gets updated with the tip, and you validate. And you see the receipt has all the information also from Adyen relevant to the customer. So you can print the receipt both in the terminal or in your own printer. And we go to the next door there. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple to use and configure. And now shops can have a better payment experience in their point of sale. Are there any questions? No questions. There we go. One question.
So if
Would you mind?
if someone chooses not to use Adyen and chooses one of the other payment processors,
Right.
what's the IT box connection? What does that look like?
So we have what we call the IoT box. Is basically a Raspberry Pi with some software and drivers in it. And you can buy it from us. You can connect multiple ones to your database. Also, if you get the subscription for the IoT app, you get one for free, I believe. And basically, this box allows you to connect multiple hardware to your Odoo database. So you can use this to have a cash register, a printer, and customer display, and the payment terminals. One thing to keep in mind with the other integrations with Bantiv, Ingenico, etc., is that those terminals only allow sliding cards. So if you fully want contactless payments, you need to use Adyen for now. Yep.
If you have multiple POS on your shop floor, do you need IoT box for each system, or you can run one IoT box for all the POS?
I think you can use a single IoT, but it's probably not recommended. I would say you should run one for each actual shop. Yeah, you can do it, yeah. Any other questions? There we go.
This is a little off topic of this, but
No problem.
has the point of sale, I know there's an issue with it when it's self-hosted with the SSL, like if your domain is SSL, HTTPS, and your IoT box is not, there's always you have to go through like some, I don't know, do you understand what I'm talking about? Or is it
Yes, I don't know the specifics, the technical aspects of.
Basically, what happens is you're on your website and it's all fine. You go to point of sale. Now you're actually on the IoT box,
Right.
And it's not secure because it's really tricky to get a secure SSL certificate for an IoT box. You can do it; it's hard. So what
Right.
you typically what I think has been recommended is that you just allow the POS to operate. You get a security warning from Odoo, and then you go to your browser, another window, and whatever the IP address
Just
is, you allow this unsecure connection. Has that been fixed for 13, or is it still the same
I
thing?
believe it should be fixed. It's mostly a deployment
fixed?
problem.
Yeah, it is. For the IoT box in the software. Okay.
Yes, that was updated. Yes, so it should work straight out of the box. Thank you. Any other questions? Nothing? Okay. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the conference.
Live? Hey, everybody, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Awesome. Thanks for joining this morning. My name is Matt Shepard. I'm a business advisor here at Odoo. I work in direct sales. And today we're going to go over the exciting topic, I hope you guys are all prepared, of the new bank reconciliation tool. There's obviously a lot of new features in the new Odoo accounting application. So this is just one small part of the new features in the accounting application, specifically around reconciling. So we'll go over a little bit what specifically that is, obviously some context beforehand, the new features, we'll do a demo, and then we'll conclude with some Q&A. So any questions that we don't have time or can't answer here, we'll make sure to get back to you at a later point in time. So a little bit of context. So as you are going through your day as a business, you are obviously doing a lot of operations around if you're selling, you're making a quotation. Quotation turns into a sales order, which then turns into an invoice, and then same thing for the purchasing side of things. You make a purchase order and then create a vendor bill. So while you are creating these invoices, these vendor bills, et cetera, you are stacking these invoice lines on each other. So you see in this slide, we're seeing this different invoice lines. And then what's a new feature in Odoo 13 is directly on the invoice, you actually have the tab for the journal items. So this invoice relates back to these specific accounts, these specific labels. So you see in this case that the accounts receivable was debited, and then the label is for this invoice here. So you're going through your day, you are, these invoices and vendor bills are being created, and they, on the accounting end, they get stacked up on, in this case, we're looking at the general ledger. And you're seeing all the different accounts receivable, all these different invoices that we are owed, and then a vendor bill and the accounts payable. So all these different transactions are all stacking up in the general ledger. And what is reconciliation used for? So I like to think of this as a way, when you say you're going out with friends and you go out for the night, you kind of keep track in your head of what you're spending, how much is being spent. But then you wake up the next morning, you actually check your bank statement. Sometimes it can be a little scary. So same type of concept in the business end of things is you need to check what's going on in terms of the actual transactions that are happening in your bank account, and then match those with your book entries. So reconciliation is really used for bank balance matching with the book entries. It's used to identify errors that may have occurred while, say, making a purchase order or creating an invoice. It's meant to also help with follow-up to, say, vendors, and then also to auto-create some of these entries. So the new features from version 12 to 13, there obviously are a lot in accounting, but they all boil down and sum up to what are these helping you to do? And it's helping you to focus on saving time for more valuable matters. So maybe actually interacting with your customer instead of dealing with all the books. So the main improvements is added a reconciliation button on the age receivables and age payables report. So this helps you with follow-up to these vendors, et cetera. So being able to reconcile directly from these reports does help with follow-up. You can use keyboard commands directly in the reconciliation tool. The bank statement import, that whole, and we'll go over this in a little bit later on, but that whole process is a lot more seamless. There's a lot more information you can include when uploading bank statements. And then following up on specific documents. So this could be, we need to chase down a vendor bill and be able to match it back to the actual transaction with an Odoo. So this is showing the example of having the reconciliation button directly on the age receivable reports. So if you actually click on the reconcile button, it'll pop out and show, based on this vendor, here are the items that need to be matched, in this case, accounts receivable. And we also added a to check button. So this helps with follow-up quite a bit. And what this will do, and we'll go in this in a demo later on. But for instance, if you're not sure of, in this case, these are grayed out lines or actual bank statement lines, and then we're trying to match this open balance with this invoice. And so if you're not sure which account that this actual invoice is going to match, or what the open balance matches to, we've added a button to check, and this helps with suspense accounts. So this can be, you're validating, you don't want to stop the flow of going through all these bills and invoices. You might add instead of trying to match a quasi account, you might add okay, I need to check this later on, and this will help you create that check to do so. It's almost like a suspense account here. So, okay, so specifically on the bank statements, the recognition has improved quite a bit. So when you're uploading, you can do things like recognize custom notes, etc. So a lot of additional fields have been added that can be recognized by the algorithm that you upload with. And you can, when you're integrating with the bank accounts, you can actually choose which specific bank accounts you can integrate with. So in this case, I used my own personal bank accounts. Obviously blocked out the balances here. But you can choose essentially which accounts you want to sync from your bank. It'll show obviously the balance, the action, if you want to match it to an existing journal, which journal that might be. And then here you can actually set up the frequency in which it's synchronized. So every 24 hours, every week, every month, whatever it might be. This is what you would look like when you actually synchronize those accounts. So I'm going to go through a quick demo and show you some of these new features that we've added. And these are the topics we're going to go over here. So, can everyone see that okay? Yep, looking good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into accounting. And this is just an accounting overview. So this is showing the different favorited journals that we have. We can see obviously a list of all the journals. This is just favorited. So I will show you, okay, this is probably very familiar for you guys, but in order to, for instance, add a new bank account, this is where you do that. We integrate with a lot of different banks around the world, mostly through a third-party provider, in this case Plaid. So this is where you'd actually sync those bank accounts, and this is what I was showing on that last page, is when you do sync, you'd have the option to choose which accounts, what information gets synced, et cetera. And where that would actually flow into, these are, again, these different journals, it'd flow into, depending on how you have it set up, the bank journal in this case. And all of these different items, they essentially are a checklist for your accountant or controller, whoever, to go through and actually action out these items. So in the bank reconciliation side of things, this is showing that we have 6 items to reconcile. It'll show us the balance in the general ledger, the latest statement, et cetera. So if I actually click into here, these are going to be, like I was saying before, the different grayed out lines. These are actual bank statement items. And then the white, these are what Odoo, in this case, thinks is a match for that specific line item. So this has to do with the reconciliation model in which this is set up for. But you see in this case, I have 6 to validate. You see 0 out of 6 have been validated. So I could easily just go ahead and match these with what I think is the correct bill. I'm going to go ahead and validate there, and it updates here. So what I want to show you is, first of all, bank statement field recognition. So to do that, I'm actually going to go back out to the accounting tool, go into the statements that I have on file. And then you'll see the one that I just reconciled. This has been updated on the actual bank statement itself. If I want to just undo that reconciliation, I can go ahead and do that. But what I want to show you here is the improved import of bank statement line items. And just based off of the reconciliation model, and in this case, I'll show you guys the reconciliation models here. So this is one example of the reconciliation model and Odoo recognizing the bank import a little bit more. So essentially, this is a custom reconciliation model line for bank fees. So this is saying, hey, I want to, based off of the label In this case, it's a regex is the type of format it is. But based on the label, if the label includes this expression, then we know that this is a reconciliation model, and then Odoo will actually suggest that we validate it. What I can do actually is click on auto-validate, and it's a little risky because you're saying the system is just going to match it based off of any of these prerequisites. So usually you have an accountant go through and do that themselves. But if I go ahead and say, oh, I want to auto-validate that, I can go back out to the actual a bank item here. And then what Odoo has told me right here is one statement line has been reconciled automatically. So you can do this for a variety of different actions, obviously. And so that's just showing a little bit of functionality. So based off of whatever type of field that you guys have on the bank statements, you guys can set it up to match those models accordingly. So really cool feature. And then a new feature as well is this, the reconciliation with adjustments. So directly as we're reconciling the statement, and this is shown a little bit on the keynote here, is I can go ahead and say, okay, so we have this, in this case, this invoice here, and we say the customer has gone ahead and paid. This is the bank statement line. The invoice is $12.75. But say the customer wants to match this with a few different line items. So they go ahead and say, okay, we want to allocate, say, not $750 here, but we want to allocate $500 on this invoice. And then on this one, we want to allocate a different amount. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to validate this. I just changed what that invoice looks like. So if I actually go back to the specific invoice itself, we'll be able to see that the amount that I just paid, so I just allocated $500 to that specific invoice, was just deducted from the invoice, and now there's a new balance of $250. So you're able to go to the reconciliation home screen, and then you're able to allocate specific amounts to specific invoices, which you could not do on the previous version here. So really cool functionality. And finally, we're going to just create a quick suspense account model. And this will show just how easy it is to create a reconciliation model. So we're going to go ahead and go to this manual operations tab. And, I already created this, but where this is, if I go into reconciliation models, and this is that suspense account one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this and we'll redo this here. So if we go back out to the reconciliation home screen, go back to the manual operations. So these are the customer and vendor matching. So this is built off of the invoice matching reconciliation model. If we go to manual operations, we can elect an account to actually allocate this from. Obviously, it's a more manual way of matching this invoice to a specific account. But what we can do is we can actually create a new model. Say this is the suspense account model. And then we can say, okay, we need to check this. The activity type will be a reconciliation request. And we have to indicate what kind of account that this hits. So this could be a suspense account, et cetera. I'm just going to say this belongs to other income. So what this does is we went ahead and just created a new reconciliation model on the fly. And so if I go into manual operations, I now have that button here. If I click on the button, it'll autofill some of these fields. And you could do this for as many types of buttons or types of models that you guys might have. So you just clicked on that, it autofilled these fields. And if I go ahead and try to validate this, since the to check is ticked, I validate this. This will actually create it's essentially a task for an owner in this case to request a document to check that this invoice is accurate. So this speaks to the integration that Odoo has, specifically in the document side of things, because in this case, we're requesting a document for a specific invoice. But I can go ahead and elect an owner for this, someone at the company. I can elect a vendor or the contact for the specific invoice. I'm going to go do that here. I'm going to say request. And then what that will do is it actually validated that. And I go back to, actually go into the journal entries. I can search these, group these by different statuses. And this would hopefully show up as a, filter this to check. So this would be in my to check filters. So I can easily just search, oh, I need to check these ones here. But in that case, since it's integrated with documents, it actually also generates a document request assigned to a specific person with a specific task associated with it. Say, okay, in whatever defined by that last screen, I need to check this in 30 days and make sure I have the vendor bill here. Okay. So those are the main features I wanted to go over, and then you'll see in this case, these are showing the PDF of the bank statement. But those are the main features I wanted to go over. So we went over how the bank import statement field recognition is a little bit better. Present here. The reconciliation models and how you can create custom reconciliation models on the fly very easily. And then also how to create a suspense account and action the different follow-ups there. So in conclusion, what does this help you do? It helps to save more time thanks to these reconciliation models. It helps to improve the data recognition of the bank statements. And then the follow-up is really seamless, especially with the integration with the documents application. And now I'll open it up to you guys for some questions. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you make the adjustment for the reconciliation on the option you have now on the accounting, or is it just on the bank statement where you can do that?
On the accounting?
Yeah, when you make the adjustment, when you're going to reconcile, can you do that only on the bank statement where you're going to reconcile, or can you go to the options, the new option that you have on accounting that says reconciliation? Because I tested on the demo, and you can't make the manual adjustment on that option.
You cannot make the manual adjustment.
Can you go to on the accounting on accounting on the option you have up there?
Okay.
Yeah, on at the bottom. There.
Reconciliation. Okay. So
it's not available.
The reconciliation. You mean the models here? So it'd be right here. So that's a model right there.
No, I mean to make a manual adjustment instead of assigning a specific amount to reconcile an invoice, for example. You don't have like the pencil that you click so you can choose.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you mean the pencil would be right here?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. That's a good point. I don't think you can do that directly from here. I can certainly check for it. I can ask for you and get back to you.
Thanks.
Other questions? Thank you guys.